Welcome to another episode of the Business Spotlight. I am joined by our guest today, Tiago Santana, the Managing Director of Garden Patch. Tiago, number one, thank you for taking the time to be on this episode and share your journey in business. So, without further ado, Tiago, can you tell us a little bit about what your role is over at Garden Patch, and we'll get into the your business journey.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, Edgar.
Yeah.
At Garden Patch, we're a fractional chief growth officer, and
Mhm.
we typically help small to mid-market SaaS companies, as well as fintech and cybersecurity firms, align their growth strategies to eliminate silos within their organization and help them build more sustainable growth.
That's amazing. Now, with you getting into this industry, right? What do you feel, Tiago, is, what is most misunderstood about the industry?
There's a couple elements,
Hmm.
but I think not all growth is good growth, especially
Hmm.
in today's world. We're seeing that more and more. And having a fractional team that can come strategize and implement oftentimes is better than having an in-house marketer or an in-house sales team. When
Right.
you think about it, it's a fraction of the cost and almost three times the amount of effort or impact that you'd make with an individual hire. We're in a weird time right now with the world, and I think a lot of businesses are learning the difference between scaling and growth. And
Mm.
I think today the most exciting area is with AI and how small teams can create significant impact when they build proper scalable systems within the buyer and customer journey. So there's a lot to unpack there, but that would be the main thing. I think really being cognizant of what your growth plan is and how you
Right.
can build sustainable growth for impactful change. I think that's the key.
Oh yeah, 100%. Having good systems, processes in play, and then having those key people in your organization to get the business to run as a well-oiled machine, right? Now, part of the business spotlight, Tiago, it's to inspire, educate people who are thinking about pursuing entrepreneurship, or they're right on the cusp, right? They're like, should I do this? So, can you share, how did you get started in this journey?
It's a funny story. I always tell people that it was an accident. When I was young, I'm the product of two Brazilian immigrants
Mhm.
and had the pleasure of having the opportunity to help my family with their family-owned business. My family runs an air conditioning company here in Las Vegas. And truthfully, when I was 18 years old, that was not what I wanted to do. But as an immigrant family, we really came together to do what we needed to do to build prosperity within our life and build our little version of the American dream. But through that experience, I gained a lot of awareness around the impact that I could create. And when it was time for me to spread my wings and move next door, because I'm located right next door from our family business, I started to really question what I wanted to work on. And Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, talks about how we as people should take time to figure out what problems we want to solve
Mhm.
and what's important enough for us to spend that little line between the year we're born and the year we're dying. Um, how we want to spend that. And I
Yeah.
think for me, it's important to be aware of that. I will say, as an entrepreneur, my thoughts have changed over time, and I
Mm.
think. As someone who accidentally fell into this position, I think what matters most is whether you choose to be a founder and CEO, or whether you choose to be on a founding team, or whether you choose to join an established organization. I think that the biggest, most important thing is to find a problem worth solving and something that you can really lose yourself to. Because when you do that, that's when you create really impactful work and find fun and flow within every day. So that would be my suggestion. But yeah, my story is a little unique, and a garden patch happened because our family business was a HubSpot partner.
Mhm.
So I have now about 15 years of HubSpot experience, and Garden Patch is a leading HubSpot partner agency, and we have the pleasure of helping companies align their sales, marketing, and service efforts.
That's amazing. And that your story alone is, it's happened to more people where they just kind of fall into the right opportunity, you know how they say right time, right place. It more often than not, it's starting to happen in today's world, right? Because finding good people is the one of the common denominators that I hear when I'm working with the business owner is like, I can't find good talent. And it also depends on like, okay, so where are you hanging out? Where are you trying to locate talent? In today's world, things have shifted, right, over the last 3 years. Um, so what you said is right, like just being at the how it found you, and then just running with it. And then that quote you said, right, is finding a problem to solve. I think that's the gold right there, because that's a good interview question, right? Like, hey, if we bring you on board, what is it that you want to achieve, and how can you help us solve a certain problem? And if you start addressing the questions a little differently and unpacking that, that's how you could find the talent you're looking for.
And
Now,
for companies too, that's how they attract talent. Something
mhm,
I want to just briefly mention, I used to believe that it was hard to find great people.
mhm,
After having the opportunity to work with amazing people from all around the world, what I've come to learn and what I do my best to share with other leaders is that people are great, but
mhm,
they must also have an amazing environment that fosters their growth and
mm,
aligns with their core values. Because I think a lot of companies complain about, oh man, it's so hard to find great people. It's so hard to find great people. But when it comes down to it, a flower will not grow in a sauna. And I think that that's such a great reminder for leaders is to have that awareness of what environment you have, and also for people too. If you're joining a small startup with less than 20 people, the likelihood of them having any training material or any systems or processes is very slim. So you should
right.
be aware that you're going to be part of building that.
Mhm,
And so knowing at what stage you're joining a company really matters, and having those candid conversations will eliminate, I think sometimes in business, the people conversation is really tough because it's hard and it's complex and communication is messy. But
mhm,
if you take enough time to build environments where people can thrive, and I'm still learning to do that myself, Edgar. It's
yeah.
a long battle. I think that really helps kind of hit the nail on that people are tough to find situation. Because you're right, people are what make it an amazing organization.
Yeah, 100%. And you said it best right now is having the vision, the purpose, and the mission aligned with the, who they're attracting. And what I found is a lot of companies, like you mentioned, right, a company of 20 employees might not have that figured out yet. And that's one of the key elements that we work on with a lot of business owners is, hey, what is your mission? What is your purpose? And what is your value? Right. And do your employees know that? and
Mhm.
and do we have it somewhere out, that they can physically see it and read it? And when we take the time to iron that out, put it up, and then their employees see, oh, this is why I'm here, that's when that team starts to really believe in that mission. And it has to align. If it doesn't align, then you need to really make some tough decisions. But you said that very, very well, so
If a
thank you
stranger
for sharing
walks
it.
in, if a stranger walks in, will the five different people answer it
Mhm.
similarly? It's like, what do we do? How do we do it? And the qualities in which we do it. Can five people give an answer that a stranger would be like, cool, those five people are part of the same team, right? It's funny here in this discussion, but you'd be surprised at how often that's not the case, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know when I do a lot of site visits, right, for some of my clients, that's one of the things I look for is I want to see how the culture is, and how do we change that culture? Why is the culture that way? So it's a lot of questions, and you can tell a lot about a company when you walk in and everybody's friendly, they're greeting you, and you're like, man, this is, you know, it becomes more attractive.
How do
So
you how do you do that for a remote team, if you don't mind, Edgar?
So on a remote team, that's a great question. It's just getting them together on Zoom, right? Hey, and then setting up those like, hey, talk to me about the day to day. What's your role, and what motivates you? What are you most excited about? So on a remote team, it's just as simple as walking into a brick and mortar, right? It's setting the time though, and getting everybody together. So I'll ask the owner, especially if they're remote, like, hey, how often do you meet with your team?
Mhm.
what are their goals? And are we tracking those goals? So really easy to measure to answer that question. Now, my next question, Tiago, is what advice would you give 20-year-old Tiago who is just getting into business?
Oh man. I think a few things. Recently I heard slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Mm,
And I wish that younger me could recognize how 30 felt before he moved. Because I think at 20, I was there's so many different things that society tells us that we should do or achieve by a certain date. And sometimes in that pursuit of wanting to move so fast, things pass by and maybe you move in the wrong direction. And so I think more people and more teams should take a second to really be intentional, or sometimes what I call flat-footed with how you move. Because by doing so, you might not be able to compare yourself comparatively to everyone else around you, but I think you'll build something of more substance in the long run. And I think that substance, or that vehicle for prosperity in
mhm,
business, is really powerful. And so I hear oftentimes entrepreneurs talk about how they're on their 12th project, and I totally get it. Like speed matters, and especially today, like break things, move fast, hustle. I hear that, um, but I can't help but say, if you can't take an hour to meditate, or excuse me, if you can't take 30 minutes to meditate every day, maybe you should take an hour. And so that would be
mm.
the advice I give my younger self, and to entrepreneurs out there. Just breathe. You're going just as fast as you need to go.
Yeah, I that quote that you just said, right? It is exactly what our lieutenant commander when I was in the Marine Corps used to tell us. You know, slow is smooth, but smooth is fast. And that's something that's resonated with me over the last 21 years. And to this day, we live in a fast-paced world. It's like I remember a few years ago, I went to LA, um, and just sitting at a coffee shop and watching everything go by so quick. I just sat there for like a good hour, hour and a half, but just taking in like, man, everybody's like in a rush. And for me, I was just enjoying the view, right? And it's you gotta slow down to speed up. And sometimes, like you just said it, and you dropped so much good information there, and really gold that the viewers are gonna want to see is that you have when you slow down and you really um, take things into perspective, and you need you time, because I hear that, right? Like I don't have enough time in the day. Well, how are we utilizing our time?
Mhm.
Are we busy, or are we saying we're busy,
Mhm.
right? And building in that time to be in our thoughts, right? While whether it's running, working out, or just taking those 30 minutes in the morning when the day's getting started, and just aligning yourself with, hey, today's going to be a great day.
I love that.
What's your guys' vision for the future with the business?
Yeah, at Garden Patch, the
Hmm.
the the journey is for us to be the best studio company that we have in the Grey Group International network.
Hmm.
And we're really leaning into our partnerships. So today we're really proud of the partnership we have with HubSpot, and we're working really hard to lean into technology partnerships in order for us to help, simplify some of this blurry tech landscape. I always get fascinated by the fact that average businesses with 200 people have about 70 tech stack tools. And when you break that down, there's a lot of tech shelf,
Hmm.
tech waste. There's just a lot of different factors to implementing and adopting those tools. And
Right.
especially today, there's a lot of things that can be eliminated and automated. And so that's our goal with Garden Patch, is to continue growing. We are really intentional with the partners we take. So we don't accept all new clients. We do our best to work with a handful of clients every year, just so that we can really create long-term relationships built on a foundation of trust and purposeful work. So that's where we see the future going. I will say I'm really excited about where our network is headed. We
Hmm.
are in the process of launching our next studio company called Web Society, which is a
Wow.
growth-driven design methodology agency towards web building. And there's just a lot of cool stuff happening in the world today. So for me, the more enthusiasm that I can bring into each day, the better it'll be. But that's a short glimpse of where we're headed. Lately, I've been pretty much in stealth mode for a lot of what we've been doing, just
Mhm.
because there's so much going on in the world, and I find that not enough people put their head down and build. And so I'm really excited for the next 5, 10 years, because a lot of what we've been working on over the last 5 years will finally start to come out to the world. But if you need any help with laying out your buyer and customer journey, I'd be so happy to be of service to you or anyone watching.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we appreciate that. Now, as we're getting out of COVID, and we're basically at the tail end of it, along this journey, what have you personally learned about yourself?
It's tough, right? I'm about to turn 30,
Hmm.
and COVID was interestingly timed in my life, because it almost feels like it stole a few years from
Hmm.
my young adulthood. And I think, on that theme of slowing down, it really put life into perspective. But I also just recognize that, life in itself is so fragile. And
Hmm.
there's, sadly, so many people today who are really struggling. And people really need each other.
Hmm.
And I think that's something that's really important. Part of what wakes me up in the morning is a question about how we can deepen human connection. And
Mm.
I think sometimes in this world of business, we let go of that. We're so focused on making money that we don't necessarily think about the frameworks that help us live a more human enabled life. And I think COVID shed a lot of light on that. And I think we're entering a really unique period in the world where, um, at least my perspective is that we're going to see a lot of shifts,
Mm.
and those shifts are going to, for a lot of people who may not be on that beginning of the curve of adoption, it might be quite painful. But I think on the opposite end of that shift, we're going to enter a technology enabled abundance age.
Hmm.
And so I think COVID was a great milestone in humanity for us to pause and shift. But I think it'll be a time in history that we look back and really think about how society and how our view of global politics and the world and power and truth and all of these discussions come to life, and the rhetoric that make up societies.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that's something I think about a lot, and in our work at GGI, that's something that we're really passionate about thinking through. So yeah, I hope that we don't experience anything like it, but it does make me wonder, how prepared our society is for change, or
Right.
for any type of challenge. So yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Right. Yeah. And to echo what you're saying is if we look back at history, right, is we are very resilient and we always adapt and overcome. And that's something that the Marine Corps instilled in a lot, in us, is that we gotta embrace change and be ready for it. Right.
Absolutely.
Now, how the rest of the world will adapt it, that's interesting, and we'll be on that journey together.
Mhm.
What's the best way as we wrap up, Tiago, for anyone who's looking to get a hold of you for your services and for what you guys do? Is there any offers that you guys are currently offering?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, I'd love to hear about what you're working on.
Hmm.
I love working with ambitious teams on their mission-driven missions. But reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's the
Yeah,
best way. And of
yeah.
course, you can check out our website, gardenpatch.xyz, with tons of helpful info. We have so many free resources and so many great things there. And I'd love for those to be of value to you. So if they are, please let me know. I would love to hear your feedback.
Yep, yep. Okay. And what's one question to wrap up today that I did not ask that you wish I did ask?
Hmm, it's a good question. Yeah, I think you covered it. That's a tough question. I think for me, we could have probably talked a little bit more about the buyer and customer journey
Hmm.
and the path to advocacy. I think
Hmm.
that something that fascinates me is how, especially as businesses, we forget that people don't just make decisions on a whim. And I think that that journey of the buyer and the customer and how they get to a place where they can't shut up about your business is really a rewarding conversation to have. And it can really be enlightening, especially for customers who are looking for new clients or looking for more revenue or looking to enhance their sales strategy. When you break down the 7 steps of the buyer and customer journey,
Hmm.
there's a lot to learn there. So that's what comes to mind, but that's really where my meat and potatoes are and where I like to spend a lot of my time. So if you or anyone else are interested in unpacking and having that discussion, again, please reach out. I'd love to have that.
Yeah, yeah, that customer journey is definitely one of the key elements, right? Is when they become your raving fans,
Mhm.
they are your best marketers because they will give you those testimonials, and those are the ones that, I mean, I can literally unpack that and spend a good 30 minutes on that, but um, you said it best, right? In embracing that customer journey and always asking for feedback, right? If we want to improve, you got to ask for honest feedback. And when they give it to you and you actually take it into consideration, you're even.
It's gold.
So, Tiago, I appreciate you being on this episode of the Business Spotlight, and I look forward to connecting with you.
Thanks so much, Edgar.